Okay, so you're into AI, right? And I bet you've heard about these multi-agent systems that are kind of blown up right now.
Yeah, they're pretty amazing.
They are. Like, imagine a whole team of AI, each with their own thing they're good at, working together perfectly.
Yeah, like a well-oiled machine.
Exactly. That's the power we're diving into today, and specifically looking at LangGraph, which is a framework that makes this AI teamwork possible.
LangGraph is so cool because it takes this whole idea of teamwork and shows it visually like a flow chart, but for AI.
Oh, I like that. A flowchart for intelligence.
It is. It's basically a graph that maps out how different AI agents interact and work together.
So it's more than just having a ton of AI running around. It's about getting them to work together, right?
Mm.
And LangGraph is built on that LangChain ecosystem, specifically for multi-agent stuff.
Yeah, you got it. And that visual graph is key because each AI agent is a node in this graph, and the connections between them show how they talk to each other and collaborate.
I see. So it makes even really complex AI interactions easier to understand.
Much easier.
Okay, so LangGraph helps manage this whole system. One of the things I saw on their website was state management. Does that mean LangGraph basically remembers what's going on as the agents are working?
Yeah, exactly. Think of it like a shared memory for the entire system.
Interesting.
As agents interact, they need to remember past actions and information. LangGraph takes care of all that bookkeeping
Automatically.
automatically,
Yeah.
which is super helpful in those complex multi-step processes where you don't want each agent trying to remember everything.
Right. So it keeps everything centralized, even when tackling, a multi-step problem. That makes sense.
Hmm.
Then there's this coordination thing. With so many agents, how does LangGraph keep them from stepping on each other's toes?
That's where the coordination features shine. It makes sure the agents work in the right order, sharing info at the right time. Think of it like, let's say you're building an AI for customer service.
Okay.
One agent could get the customer's info, another looks at the problem, suggests solutions, and a final agent tells the customer how it's solved. LangGraph makes sure that whole process runs smoothly, with each agent knowing when to do its part.
Oh, so LangGraph is like the conductor of an orchestra, making sure each instrument plays at the right moment.
Yeah, it's a great analogy.
It really is. And then they have cycles and control, which sounds kind of cool. What is that?
This is where LangGraph gets really powerful. It can repeat actions, which is super important for tasks that need refining or fine-tuning.
Okay, so like if an AI needs to try something a few times to get it right.
Exactly, but there's more. LangGraph also lets developers control how each agent makes decisions. You can change how the AI thinks based on the data it has and the feedback it gets.
Oh, it's like having a rewind button, right?
Yeah.
Being able to see why the AI did what it did and then change how it thinks to make it perform better.
Right, and that level of control is really rare in other frameworks.
Yeah, that seems like a huge plus for developers building complex AI.
Absolutely. Especially as AI gets more advanced and is doing more than just simple tasks. We're talking about AI that can solve complex problems, make decisions, and even work with us humans seamlessly.
Speaking of working with humans, LangGraph can actually integrate human input directly into the process, right? It's not just AI doing its own thing.
Exactly. Imagine you're using LangGraph to automate like a report.
Right.
The AI does all the data analysis and drafts the report.
Okay.
But then LangGraph pauses so a human can look it over and approve it before it goes out.
Oh, so it's like having a human editor on the AI team.
Precisely.
Yeah,
And it makes sense when you need that human touch and oversight.
definitely. Now, LangGraph isn't the only framework out there, right? What about things like AutoGen and Crew AI,
Right, there are others like AutoGen, which is great for conversational AI.
chatbots and stuff?
Yeah, it uses OpenAI's Assistant API, which gives it access to some really powerful tools. It can even interpret code and work with files.
Wow, that's impressive.
It is. It's like a team of AI agents, each with a specialty, ready to have a complex conversation.
Okay, so if I need AI that can chat like a human, AutoGen might be the way to go. What about Crew AI? How's that different?
Crew AI is more structured, focusing on roles. It's like a well-organized team where everyone knows what they're responsible for.
So it's about that balance between each agent doing its own thing, but also working together.
You got it. But in all these approaches, LangGraph stands out. It has its own unique strengths.
Okay, now I'm intrigued. What makes LangGraph so special?
Well, first, there's its expressiveness. LangGraph is really open and flexible, letting you build unique applications.
So it's not a one-size-fits-all approach. It's like a set of tools, letting developers build custom solutions.
Yeah, that's a great way to put it. But even though it's flexible, LangGraph also has built-in checks and balances to make sure everything runs smoothly.
So it's not going to go off the rails just because each developer is doing their own thing.
Not at all.
Yeah.
And then there's how easy it is to use. Building these multi-agent systems can get really complex, but LangGraph makes it simpler. Developers can focus on the logic of their app without getting lost in all the technical stuff.
So it's accessible even if you're not like a hardcore AI expert.
Right. And on top of that, LangGraph has this crazy feature called time travel. Imagine rewinding your AI's actions and making changes.
Whoa.
It's super powerful for debugging and optimizing these complex systems. You get control that you just don't see in other frameworks.
That's wild. You can literally step back in time, see what choices your AI made, and tweak them to improve the results.
Exactly. That kind of control is essential, especially as AI starts tackling bigger tasks. LangGraph is built to support what we call iterative development. It allows for these decision-based workflows that adapt and refine themselves over time as new data comes in.
Okay, so it's not about building a rigid AI that can only do one thing. It's about creating AI systems that can learn and grow, kind of like how humans do, I guess.
That's a great analogy. Exactly. That's what makes LangGraph so perfect for real-world problems that are always changing.
This is really fascinating stuff. LangGraph seems like it's really pushing the boundaries of what's possible with AI. But I'm still kind of stuck on that graph structure being so central to it all. Can you explain a bit more about what that means in practice?
Yeah, it's super important. Think of it like a network of nodes, where each node represents an AI agent with its own skills.
So if an agent is like a specialist, then the nodes are showing who all the specialists are?
Yes, and those nodes are connected by edges, which show how information flows between them and how they interact to get the job done.
Oh, I see. So it's like a visual blueprint for how all these agents work together. But wouldn't a big, complicated workflow with lots of agents make the graph super messy and hard to read?
LangGraph has some cool features to manage that, like hierarchical graphs and filters to organize everything.
Yeah.
But you're right, it's something developers need to be aware of. The good thing is that the graph makes everything transparent. You can see how agents are working and what data they're sharing.
Okay, so transparency is like a built-in feature.
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah.
That makes it much easier to troubleshoot, to make sure the system is working right. And it helps build trust, not just for developers, but also for the people using these systems.
Oh, I see what you mean, yeah. If you can't see what the AI is doing, it's hard to trust it, right?
Exactly. Plus, the graph promotes reusability. Since each agent is a separate node, you can easily swap them out, change them, or even reuse them in other apps.
So it's like building with Legos. You can rearrange and swap pieces to make different things.
You got it. This makes development faster, more efficient, and makes it easier to adapt these systems over time as things change.
That's really cool. It's like having a system that can evolve as our needs evolve.
Exactly. So, to sum it up, that graph structure isn't just a pretty picture. It's a core part of what makes LangGraph so powerful and flexible.
It's what makes it possible to manage these multi-agent systems and build really impressive stuff, right?
Exactly. It's what sets LangGraph apart.
Well, we've covered a ton today. The core concepts, the special features, and even how it's being used in the real world. LangGraph really seems to have the potential to change how we build and use AI.
Definitely.
Before we wrap up, I'm curious about your thoughts on what's coming next. What gets you excited about the future of LangGraph and this whole world of multi-agent AI?
Oh, there's so much to be excited about. One trend I'm really into is how different AI technologies are coming together. We're seeing LangGraph combined with other cutting-edge stuff like reinforcement learning and natural language processing.
So LangGraph isn't just working in isolation. It's like it's teaming up with other AI superstars. What does that mean for what's possible?
The possibilities are endless. Just imagine a system that can automate tasks and learn and improve itself at the same time, or a system that understands and responds to our commands naturally.
Whoa, that's next level. Like AI straight out of science fiction.
It really is. We're on the verge of a massive jump in AI capabilities. And another cool trend is that this whole world of multi-agent AI is becoming much more accessible.
What do you mean by accessible?
Well, thanks to tools like LangGraph, it's easier than ever for developers to build and use these systems, even if they don't have a ton of AI experience.
So it's not just for the AI elite anymore.
Exactly. And that's where I think we're going to see the real impact. As more people can use these tools, we're going to see so much more creativity and problem solving.
It's like opening up a whole new world of possibilities.
Precisely. And I think LangGraph is going to be a big part of that.
Well, it definitely seems like we're just scratching the surface of what's possible with multi-agent AI.
There you go. We're just getting started.
And it's clear that LangGraph is leading the way. But before we get too lost in all the cool possibilities of the future, let's shift gears for a bit and talk about the community and support system around LangGraph. We've talked a lot about the technical stuff, but what about the people behind the scenes, the ones who are making it all happen?
You're right, the community is so important. The LangGraph community is incredibly active and supportive, and that's crucial for innovation.
So it's not just about the code, it's about the people writing the code and sharing their knowledge with each other.
Exactly. And what impresses me most is how open everyone is. They're always willing to help each other out, share what they know, and contribute to making LangGraph better.
Wow, that's great. It sounds like a very collaborative and supportive space for anyone who's interested in LangGraph.
It really is. That spirit of collaboration is a big reason why LangGraph is growing so quickly.
Yeah. When people work together, they can achieve so much more. And in a field as complex and rapidly changing as AI, having that kind of community support is essential.
I agree. It can be really intimidating to get started with AI, but having a community there to help you makes a huge difference.
Makes it a lot less scary. Speaking of getting started, what resources would you recommend for someone who's brand new to LangGraph?
The official LangChain documentation is always a good place to start.
So straight to the source.
Yep, it gives you a great overview of everything. And if you learn best by doing, there are a bunch of online tutorials and courses that guide you through building your own LangGraph applications.
Okay, so there's something for everyone, regardless of your learning style.
Exactly. And for those who want to go even deeper, there's a ton of academic research and papers out there.
So whether you're a newbie or an AI expert, there's something for you in the world of LangGraph.
Precisely. And the best part is that all these resources are always being updated as the technology evolves.
It's like a never-ending journey of discovery.
You got it?
But before we move on, I want to circle back to something we briefly touched on earlier, the real-world impact of LangGraph. We've talked about all the cool features and possibilities, but can you give us some concrete examples of how it's being used to solve real problems out there in the wild?
Oh, there are so many. One area where LangGraph is really shining is in automating those complex business processes. Things that involve a ton of paperwork, approvals, and back and forth communication.
Oh, yeah, I can definitely relate to that. It's a nightmare.
It is. And it's ripe for automation with LangGraph.
Huh?
For example, imagine a company trying to simplify how they onboard new customers.
Okay, yeah.
That process can be a mess. But with LangGraph, you can create a system where different agents handle different parts of that process, like gathering info from the customer, verifying their identity, processing their application, and so on.
So it's like having a team of AI specialists, each taking care of a specific piece of the onboarding puzzle.
Exactly. Each agent specializes in its task, and LangGraph keeps everything running smoothly and efficiently.
I bet it saves a ton of time and reduces errors too, right?
Absolutely. And it's not just about efficiency, it's also about improving the experience for the customer. Imagine an agent that proactively answers questions or gives updates on their application.
It's like having a personalized guide throughout the whole onboarding process.
Exactly. It's so much better than the usual impersonal experiences. And the applications go way beyond just customer onboarding. We're seeing LangGraph used for things like managing supply chains, analyzing financial data, and even scientific research.
It's amazing to think that one technology can do all of that.
I know. It's because LangGraph can break down huge, complex tasks into smaller, manageable chunks that specialized agents can handle.
It's so versatile. It really seems like LangGraph is more than just a theory or concept. It's already making a real difference in the world.
It absolutely is. And I think as AI continues to evolve, LangGraph is going to play an even bigger role in how we work, how we live, and how we interact with technology.
It really is an exciting time to be alive and to witness all of this.
I agree.
Well, we've covered a ton in this first part of our deep dive. We've looked at the nuts and bolts of LangGraph, explored its potential impact, and even touched on the ethical side of things. It's clear that this technology has the power to change how we develop and use AI. But there's still so much more to explore.
We've only scratched the surface.
Exactly. In the next part of our deep dive, we'll take a closer look at the practical side of LangGraph, exploring both its strengths and weaknesses, and we'll dig into some real-world case studies to see how it's solving complex problems. So make sure you tune in for the next episode.
It's going to be awesome. So last time we were talking about how LangGraph is already out there, making a difference.
Yeah, and that's what I think makes it so interesting. It's not just theory, it's actually helping people. So where do you see the most potential for LangGraph? What are you most excited about?
Well, one area that I think is really promising is personalized education. Imagine if every student had an AI tutor that could adapt to how they learn best.
Oh, wow. Instead of everyone learning the same way, we could have AI that tailors the experience to each student.
Exactly. LangGraph could create a system where one agent figures out what the student already knows, their strengths and weaknesses,
Girl?
and then another agent creates a learning plan just for them, choosing the best content and activities.
So it's like a whole team of AI teachers working together to give each student exactly what they need.
Yes. And it gets even better. Another agent could track their progress, give feedback, and even change the plan as the student learns.
So it's constantly adjusting and making sure the student is getting the most out of it. That's incredible.
It is. And this could be especially helpful for students who struggle in traditional classrooms. It could also help students who are ahead of the curve by giving them more challenging stuff.
It really could change education as we know it. It's pretty mind-blowing to think about.
It is. And the cool thing is that LangGraph can be applied to so many other areas, like healthcare, for example.
Oh, wow. Healthcare. That's a big one.
Yeah.
How could something like LangGraph be used in healthcare?
Well, imagine having an AI that constantly monitors your health, analyzes your medical data, and gives you personalized advice.
It's like having a virtual doctor with you all the time.
Kind of, but it's not just about monitoring. LangGraph could also be used to build really advanced diagnostic systems. Systems that analyze data, find potential health risks, and even suggest treatments.
That sounds like it could revolutionize healthcare.
It definitely has the potential. Of course, there are still challenges like making sure these systems are accurate and reliable. But the possibilities are incredible.
I agree. It's really exciting to imagine how LangGraph could improve people's health and well-being.
It is. And these are just a couple examples. I think we're just scratching the surface of what's possible with LangGraph.
It's clear that it has the power to really change things. But what about the challenges? What are some of the things that developers might struggle with when using LangGraph?
Well, one of the biggest hurdles is just managing how complex these systems can get. As you add more agents and interactions, it can be hard to keep track of everything and make sure it's working the way you want.
Yeah, I can imagine it's like trying to juggle 100 different things at once.
Exactly. And that's where LangGraph's visual graph is so helpful. It lets developers see how the agents are interacting, making it easier to understand what's going on and spot any problems.
So it's like a map that helps them navigate the complexity.
Yes. But even with the map, debugging a multi-agent system can be a real pain.
Yeah, I bet.
But remember that time travel feature we talked about? That's a lifesaver for debugging.
Right. Being able to rewind and see how the AI made a decision.
It's super powerful. You can see exactly where things went wrong and then use LangGraph to tweak the agents and fix the problem.
So you can go back, fix mistakes, and then see how those changes affect the whole system.
Exactly. But debugging isn't the only challenge. We also need to make sure these systems are robust and reliable.
What does that mean exactly? Robust and reliable.
It means making sure they'll work as expected, even if something unexpected happens. We don't want them crashing or making bad decisions just because they encounter something new.
Right. Especially if we're talking about things like healthcare or self-driving cars, reliability is crucial.
Absolutely. And that involves a lot of testing. Developers need to put their systems through all sorts of scenarios to make sure they can handle anything.
So you're basically trying to break it to make sure it won't break in the real world.
Pretty much. And it's not always easy, especially with these multi-agent systems. But luckily, there are tools and techniques to help, and the LangGraph community is always sharing tips and tricks.
That's good to hear. It sounds like the community is really committed to making LangGraph as good as it can be.
Definitely. They're awesome.
So we've talked about managing complexity, debugging, and ensuring reliability. Are there any things that LangGraph just can't do? Any inherent limitations?
Well, LangGraph works best when you have a really clear idea of what you're trying to automate. You need to know how to break down tasks into specific actions that agents can perform.
So if the problem is too vague or open-ended, LangGraph might not be the best choice.
Right. It's great at handling well-defined workflows, but not so much with ambiguity or uncertainty.
So there are still areas where human judgment is needed.
Definitely. LangGraph isn't about replacing humans. It's about giving them the tools to do more, to solve bigger problems. It's about freeing them up from boring tasks so they can focus on the creative stuff.
That's a great point. It's about working with AI, not being replaced by it.
Exactly. And I think that's what makes LangGraph so exciting. It's about unlocking human potential.
I like that, unlocking human potential. But now I'm thinking about the ethics of all of this. As AI gets more powerful, how do we make sure it's used responsibly? How do we make sure it's actually benefiting humanity?
That's a huge question and a really important one. The potential benefits of AI are enormous, but we can't ignore the risks.
What kind of risk?
Well, one concern is that AI systems could reflect the biases that exist in the data they're trained on.
Oh, yeah. I've heard about that. Like if the data is biased, the AI will be biased too.
Exactly. So we need to be really careful about where our data comes from and actively work to reduce bias in our systems.
Are there ways to do that? To make sure the AI isn't biased?
There are. We can use diverse data sets, carefully check the AI's output, and involve diverse groups of people in the development process.
So it's about being proactive, not just assuming the AI will be fair and unbiased. We have to build those safeguards in from the start.
Absolutely. And we also need to think about how AI will affect jobs and the economy.
Yeah, that's something a lot of people are worried about, that robots are going to take everyone's jobs.
It's a valid concern,
Hmm.
but I think AI can also create new jobs, even if those jobs look different from the ones we have today.
So it's more about adaptation, figuring out how we can work with AI rather than being replaced by it.
Right. We need to adapt and evolve along with AI, not be afraid of it.
It's not about AI taking over. It's about using AI to create a better future for everyone.
Exactly. We need to be thoughtful and responsible, but AI has the potential to do amazing things.
Well said. It reminds me that the future isn't set in stone. We're creating it right now with every choice we make.
I love that. And speaking of choices, what are you most excited about personally? You spend a lot of time with LangGraph. What gets you fired up?
Okay, that's a good question. I'm really excited about how LangGraph empowers people to be creative and solve problems.
Me too.
It's not just about automating boring stuff, it's about giving people the tools to build intelligent systems that can help us tackle big problems like healthcare or climate change, things that felt impossible before.
It's amazing. I really believe that LangGraph can help us create solutions we never even thought of before.
It's like opening up a whole new world of possibilities. And it reminds me that technology is at its best when it helps people do more, create more, and achieve more.
Couldn't have said it better myself.
Well, I think that's a great place to wrap up this part of our LangGraph deep dive.
Agreed.
We've talked about the tech, its potential, and even the ethical stuff. But the most exciting part is seeing what people will do with this technology, how they'll use it to solve problems and create amazing things.
I can't wait. And in the next part, we're going to do just that. We're going to dive into some real-world examples of LangGraph in action. We'll see how it's being used in different industries and the incredible things it's already achieving. So make sure you join us for the final part of our LangGraph deep dive.
All right, welcome back to our deep dive on LangGraph. We've spent the last two parts really getting into the nitty-gritty of what it can do, its potential, and even some of the challenges and ethical things to think about.
Yeah, it's been quite a journey.
It has, but now it's time to see it in action, right? To see how people are actually using it.
Exactly.
Yeah,
It's one thing to talk about the theory, but it's so much cooler to see how people are using LangGraph to build real stuff.
totally. We've talked about areas where LangGraph could have a big impact, like in education and healthcare, but can you give us some concrete examples of what's already happening?
Oh, absolutely. One of the coolest examples I've seen is in customer service. There's this company that's using LangGraph to build a system that handles customer questions across like every channel you can think of: email, chat, social media, even phone calls.
Wow, so they've brought everything together under one AI-powered roof. That's pretty ambitious. How does that even work?
It's a perfect example of how LangGraph can manage these really complicated workflows. So let's say a customer sends an email with a question about their order.
Okay.
An agent in the system reads the email, pulls out the important info, and then sends it to the right department or agent to handle it.
So even though the customer might start with an email, their question could end up being answered by a totally different part of the system depending on what they're asking.
Exactly. And the system can handle all sorts of situations. Like if the customer calls later with a follow-up question, the system remembers who they are and gives the agent all the info from their previous interactions.
Oh, that's so much better than having to repeat yourself every time you call customer service. It sounds like LangGraph is helping create a much more personalized and smooth customer experience.
It definitely is.
Yeah.
And the company has actually seen a big jump in customer satisfaction since they started using it. Customers love the quick responses, the consistent experience, and the fact that they don't have to keep explaining their situation over and over.
That makes a lot of sense. It's a win-win for everyone. Okay, so beyond customer service, what other industries are using LangGraph?
Another area that's really embracing it is the financial tech world, or fintech as they call it. Companies are using LangGraph for everything from AI investment advisors to systems that catch fraud.
Oh, finance. That's interesting. There's so much data in finance, it seems like a perfect fit for AI. How exactly are they using LangGraph for that?
One cool example is in algorithmic trading. A company is using LangGraph to build a system that analyzes market data, spots good trading opportunities, and makes trades automatically.
Wait, so they basically created an AI stock trader.
Kind of, yeah. It can analyze huge amounts of data and make decisions way faster than a human ever could.
That's incredible. But also a little scary, right? What if the AI makes a bad decision?
That's always a risk, especially when you're dealing with real money. But they've built in a lot of safety measures. Human experts are always monitoring the system, and they've put limits on how much it can trade.
So it's more like humans and AI working together to make the best decisions.
Exactly. And LangGraph is being used for other things in finance, too, like detecting fraudulent transactions, figuring out credit risk, and even giving personalized financial advice.
Wow, it sounds like LangGraph is shaking things up in finance just like it is in customer service.
It really is.
Yeah.
And these are just a couple of examples. We're really just seeing the tip of the iceberg with LangGraph. As the technology gets even better and more developers start using it, we're going to see so many more incredible applications.
That's really exciting. But for all our listeners out there who are now super interested in LangGraph, how can they get started? What advice would you give to someone who wants to learn more or maybe even build their own LangGraph applications?
The best advice I can give is just dive in and start exploring. There are tons of great resources available, like the official documentation from LangChain, community forums, tutorials, you name it.
So you don't need to be a computer science whiz to get started.
Not at all. The LangGraph community is so welcoming and helpful. There's a ton of support for people at every skill level.
That's awesome. So if someone wants to start learning, where should they go?
The LangChain documentation is always a great place to begin. It explains everything really clearly. And there are also lots of tutorials and courses online that can walk you through the steps of building your own LangGraph applications.
So it's all about finding what works best for you. But what about actually building something? Where can people find inspiration or maybe even work on projects with others?
The LangGraph community is super active online. There are forums and groups where you can connect with other developers, ask questions, show off your work, and even find people to collaborate with.
So it's not just about learning on your own, it's about being part of a community, sharing ideas, and helping each other out.
Exactly. And I think that's what makes LangGraph so special. It's not just a piece of software. It's a group of passionate people who are pushing the limits of what AI can do.
Well, that's a great reminder that AI isn't just about lines of code. It's about the people behind the code and the amazing things they can create together.
I couldn't agree more.
We've covered so much in this deep dive, the technical details, the potential impact, the ethical considerations, and now some real-world examples of LangGraph in action.
It's been quite a journey.
It has. It's clear that LangGraph is a powerful tool that can change how we think about and interact with AI.
It really is.
And I think the most exciting thing is that we're just at the beginning. Who knows what amazing things people will build with LangGraph in the future?
I can't wait to find out.
Me neither. So to all our listeners out there, thank you for joining us on this deep dive into the world of LangGraph and multi-agent AI. We hope you learned something new and that you're feeling inspired to explore this amazing technology even further. And who knows, maybe you'll be the one to create the next big breakthrough in AI. Until next time, keep learning, keep exploring, and keep pushing the boundaries of what's possible.